Sooners of Oklahoma at 12-0 and still looking for respect nationwide.
What is going on, Sooner Nation? Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Barry and Mack Show. Today, had to bring you guys the live post game. As always, myself, Barry, personal trainer, sports performance coach out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And alongside me, former Sooner wide receiver, 2000 national champ, Mr. Damian Mackey. How are we doing today, D-Mack?
Happy Sunday, B. I'm in Vegas. I caught a plane last night to deal with my wallows and my sorrows. And so now I'm actually in Vegas looking at some property. So obviously, spending a lot of time paying attention to the game and thinking about really processing what I saw yesterday and very excited about this conversation and figure out if we can assess what happened and come up with some solutions for the rest of the season.
Absolutely, man. I've already started the rewatch, and I will tell you what, there's some good and some bad, man. And I will say the good is really good at times, and we'll kind of unpack. I think we're going to be kind of in agreement on what the good is, but boy, was there some bad, and not just bad, D-Mac, but like historically just a horrible half of football. Right, and that's really what it was a tale of OU lost the first half, won the second half, but unfortunately they had dug a hole too deep against a good team. That maybe that's the first thing we talk about, because I think you posted about it. I discussed this, and if you guys aren't members on OUinsider.com, go over there, grab yourself a membership. Myself, D-Mac, posting over there on a regular basis. I think D-Mac's got a couple threads going right now. I got 2 or 3 going. Discussing the Jackson Arnold situation, but it's the SEC. 1 loss, man, probably even 2, doesn't kick you out of the whole thing. So before we go into the nuts and bolts, before we talk about the offense and the defense, give the fans that 30,000-foot purview on where this season could actually go if the changes that we think are going to happen, and if OU is able to figure some things out. All is not lost. Give the fans a reason to be excited, and maybe even touch on the comment recently. Of course, people are going to be coming at Seth Stroh, going to be talking about Jackson, all those things. But discuss where OU stands right now, D-Mac, and how they can get out of this and still have a good year.
Yeah, I think the first thing we want to make sure we are very conscious of is today is literally like the first day of fall. And football is a fall sport. And all the doom and gloom, the sky is falling, it's the end of the world. Everybody sucks on the offensive side of the ball is not going to be productive because you got to ask yourself, what's the alternative? Right? As it relates to this season that we are currently in, we just faced the number 5 team in America. We lost by 10 points at home. We gave away a touchdown, or we gave away points when we fumble on the 5-yard line on first down. We potentially give away points when we throw an interception on first down when our quarterback has time. We also give away points when our defense gets another fumble on the plus side of the field. I think it's right around midfield, first down, right? So we find a way to lose the game. Obviously, we're going to talk about some substitutions and things of that nature that happened to put us in a better place to be successful. But I just can't afford to say for the entire fall, I am going to be doom and gloom and that OU, we suck or we're not going to make it or we need to fire everybody. Guys, that's not productive. I get it in an emotional state, but we've got a season to play. We've got recruits to continue to cultivate. We've got young pups that are going to be coming up. And so you got to take your lumps. But to your point, Barry, and obviously you saw me post this yesterday, and we talked about it even in the past, we're not in the Big 12 anymore. This is not the BCS era. This is not a +1 era. Guys, there's 12 spots. We're in the number 1 conference where potentially 4, if not 5 spots for the playoffs will be available. And so I just think it's an opportunity for us to see where we are in terms of our grit, in terms of our determination, in terms of our culture, right? BV rests his hat on culture. He says, hey, we've created a very strong, united culture here. We'll see. This is a very clear we'll see moment. We can't say for sure if that's the case, but we'll see. And if he has created that culture, this team's going to be, I'll say okay. I don't know if I can yet say better than okay, but the team will be okay. Will continue to be competitive because defense travels. And so obviously we'll talk about the defensive side of the ball. But I laugh. I left a lot of laughing emojis, Barry, at some of the people who left all these
Yeah.
very just emotionally radical, oh, we need to fire Seth. Like, dude, this is Seth's fifth game as the OC with the quarterback that he inherited with a scheme that is not his bread and butter. And by the way, I do not want to make excuses for Seth. I am not here to
No.
do that today. You will not hear me try to fix his warts and issues because he has some too. But I'm also not going to sit here and act like when you're playing a season, right? You gotta play with the cards you're dealt. And we'll talk about obviously Hawk and some of the things that we've heard over the last couple of months. I'll be more forward with some of the stuff that I heard because I was keeping some of that stuff under wraps. But I also understand this is a multi-billion-dollar business. Everyone knows these kids are making money off their name, image, and likeness. Everyone knows that we have a general manager and kids have budgets and funding and money. And if it were your money, you'd be cautious on how you spent it as well. And so all of those things are a part of the
Yep.
equation. And we'll dive more into that. But I'm just here to say it sets up good for us. We got Auburn next week. It's a winnable game. It's a road
Very
winnable game.
winnable.
That's a perfect, right? We want to go on the road and see how we match up on the road. We want to go into a hostile environment, but not one where we're going to be out athleted in some positions. And then after that, we go into a bye week, sets up perfect for our rival. Like you couldn't ask for a better, kind of like the intangibles to line up in our
A
behalf.
great setup. Yeah.
Yep. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of important things. The season is not lost. There's a lot of spots there in the playoff. OU, the team is still hunting for a championship. I'll say it, DMAC, and some fans may agree, may not. What you saw in Tennessee is one of the best offenses in the conference. And OU
For
went out
sure.
there and held them to 25 points and gift wrapped 12 of them. The OU defense is a legitimate, maybe not national championship, but certainly a defense that can play at the caliber of an SEC championship style of football. I think they are, if they get a chance to really procure just maybe a couple more positions, they Venables has this team well on the way. I do think it's unfortunate the way the Levy stuff worked out. I think Levy was a good hire, but with Venables, you've had defensive continuity since day one, right? Recruiting, scheme, what they want to do hasn't changed since Ali arrived, right? Ali is just, they call him the mini BV, and a lot of
Yep.
that is because the defense it's the same, right? All he's doing is adding an extra layer of nuance, maybe some more detailed coaching, giving Venables a chance to spread himself out a little further, not be spread so thin. That's what you get with that. But the defensive continuity has been strong. Offensive continuity, you're going from being a team under the previous regime where the identity was completely offense. You had to make the shift. You had a stopgap in Dylan Gabriel where your young players did not have a chance to gain experience. So now you find yourself in this situation where once again you're turning over the scheme. You're turning over an offensive line. You're turning over receivers. You got some receivers who are maybe some square peg round hole. But before we go into the offense, we'll save that towards the end. Let's go defense first, because to me that was the story of the OU show. Was we didn't know, was Tulane, Houston, and Temple, was that just a matter of who they were playing, or was this defense legitimate? I predicted that they would hold Tennessee to around 24 because I felt the D line was for real, and if they could slow down Tennessee's run game, they were going to be in good shape to win. And they were, if the offense played better. OU was in good shape to win that football game, right? They came, if a couple more plays in the second half go right, OU is in shape to kick an onside kick, maybe at a little earlier time. Like there's a lot of things that could have happened. But let's unpack defensively what made OU successful, D-Mac. When you watched defensive ends, probably one of their better games as a group, right? Trace Ford, RMT, Ethan Downs shows. It's like Ethan Downs just needs a big game to play in. Yeah, he's the kind of guy who did against the other programs, the lower tier just disappears. But you get him in big games, he becomes a player. Jaden Jackson, you got to see a little feistiness in him. I love seeing that right from a young pup. Dejon Terry had a really good game. Dominic Williams, really good game. And Grayson Halton, once again, man, what was an absolute stud. Um, I thought Stutzman, there were a few spots where the backers got picked on, but I felt a lot of things were done in the secondary. Tennessee knew how to stretch some of those corners kind of thin in some different spots, and they were able to get home and get to the end zone on a few passes. But Stutzman, Kip, McKenzie, I thought all played really well given the circumstances and given who they were going up against. I really liked McKenzie in this matchup, and I felt against the run having him in was good. But Kip Lewis also was not bad. And Lewis Carter, man, Lewis Carter showed up with a few plays. I think it was time for him to show out. Secondary was where they got picked on. Woody had his struggles as we kind of predicted, right? And now that Dolby is out, we'll talk about that. Maybe is this a chance where they say, Woody, we seem to have this corner spot locked up. Do you want to go play Little Cheetah? I think this is the perfect opportunity to do it. But touch on what you saw in the defense, D-Mac. Touch on what you feel that they can continue to build on, and are they championship caliber?
I think the first thing I want to say is in today's day and age in college football, you watch the games. This is a defense that I think is championship good. They're not dominating like Bama has been in the past, and like Georgia has been more recently, where they've had some dominating defenses. But I think back to like the LSU team of 17. I think back to like some of those teams where they had high velocity offenses and they had a defense to complement that was opportunistic, that could get pressure on the quarterback and really bow their back when they needed to. This defense has all those attributes. That guard center guard combo of Tennessee was the strength of their O line. And I got to tell you, when you go back and watch the film, we got the better half of that group. And that was one of my I said, hey, we got to control that guard center guard, because if we make them go that sideline to sideline, we can run. We got backers who can run, and it felt like we wouldn't give too much of the edge. I'm really proud of our just the entire D line. I do want to make special mention, and I swear, I don't know. I feel like I understand BV and how he likes to attack, because we showed a ton of two stand-up ends.
Yeah,
And I got to tell you, when you put Trace Ford, and you spoke to it, it wasn't me,
yeah,
you said it. Trace Ford in the 2-point stands is a totally different animal.
yeah.
He kind of plays like a 34 backer. Uh,
100%. He might in the
34
pros. That's probably his spot.
100. Man, listen, he was an animal off that edge. By the way, he was very strong, controlling the edge in the run game. Guys, he was crossing face when they were trying to run that stretch bend back where they'd run it play side and then intentionally trying to cut up behind the guard, almost like a gap assignment, but it's still zone principles, but they want you to overrun it. And I mean, he was crossing face and getting into the action. Very, very impressed by our defensive line. By the way, got to give McGill, Chavis some props for that. That D line was ready to go. I think we had three really good D ends in 32, 30, and 40 who all showed up and played with a lot of really good attitude. The four D linemen that you brought up, right? Jaden Jackson, Dominic, Terry, and Halton, and they were playing a lot of 30. So Halton was playing on that edge
A
sometimes too. In
lot of
fact,
thirty.
we played a ton of 30. We played a ton of 32, which was smart. And so, yeah, the defensive line, I don't know. I mean, Tennessee was averaging 9 yards a carry. Really good running backs. Again, you see their running backs and some of the stuff they were able to do in the trash, which was really, really good. Proud of our defense. At the backer position, we played solid. I hate Danny had a couple of opportunities to make the All-American play. And again, it goes back to that. Did you see the goal line play? He's there. I don't know how he doesn't just lambast the running back in the backfield. He shoots the guard. It's the guard tackle gap. He's right on time. He's across the running back's face, so he's got a flush hit. And for some, I don't know how, but he just glances off of I think the kid's name is Samson or whatever his name was. The running back they had that had a bunch of touchdowns throughout the year, and he gets in. And those are the type of plays where you just want your All-American middle linebacker to be flush. And he wasn't. Danny played well. I saw a couple of Kip played better. He had some impactful plays. By the way, very good on the edges. Very good. At the off tackle, pursuing inside out, he did well. But they had a couple of plays, second and third quarter, where he was right there. Same thing, ducks his head. Samson, whatever the running back's name is, he kind of gets up out of it. 18 was having a ton of success, the backup running back or the number 2 running back. And so, but backers play winning football. I don't know any game where you're going to see every backer make every tackle. That just doesn't happen, right? I want to say this about the corners. We diagnosed Woody, and we saw them number one go after Woody intentionally, and we saw them go after Little Bowen. And the difference is Little Bowen's in the hip pocket. 5'10", 165 pounds. Woody's a yard or two behind. And so I thought we both thought that height would take some chances with that. I want to speak to Kenai Walker. By the way, again, just the emotional stuff that I hear people say. Guys, the play that they score a touchdown on, you can't ask your corner to play off outside man, meaning you can't give up the fade route and then not expect them to be able to run a bang 8 slant. It's impossible to cover. Could he have been a little closer? Yeah, I think so. But if you look at his angle, 100%, he's expecting a safety inside. That's the only job the safety has in pass coverage. It's a matchup zone. So if that route goes in across the middle of the field, the corner has to have them, which is why you take away outside. You can't give up the speed out or they'll take it all day. And Tennessee runs that route. You can't give up the hitch because if you're 1v1 and the safety's on the hash, if you get beat outside, the safety can't get there. The only thing you give up is the inside, the in cut, right? You give away that in cut. And that bang 8 is a longer route. You're pressing it. It's called a bang 8 because it's 8 total yards. So you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 7-step slant because you got to give the quarterback time to make action. And we'll talk about that particular play because it comes up 2 more times in the game. And if you're an OU insider, you know what I'm talking about. But the angle Kenai has 100% says he's expecting help from the safety. And if you watch the play pre-snap, Billy Bowen takes 2 steps down into the box. He's not in the box. He's on the edge of the box. He's in no man's land. If they're running the football, he can't make the play. But now because he's taken those steps into the box, he can't help in the only place the corner is expecting help, which is that bang 8 slant. It's like a short post. It's not a dig, but it's a slant. It's essentially a deeper slant. And he gave the route up. He couldn't catch the guy, and those are one of those ones where you're like, damn, but those are one of those ones you're like, what the hell is my safety? And the defense is designed to push that player to your help. And it just sucks that when you do so, your help isn't there. It makes you look bad. And of course, Billy's not chasing him, right? It's Kenai chasing him, and everybody in the stands can see. And the armchair quarterback's like, oh, he got burnt. Like, nah, guys, football is a team sport. But I'm not trying to make excuses for Kenai. I'm trying to express to people how the actual ingredients of a defense works and how we had set up our defensive structure was designed to have support in that regard. So Kenai obviously can't give that up, but Billy needs to be able to support him. And Billy's the All-American. Billy's the multiple year starter. Billy's the guy that you think defenses are going to have to scheme against. And really, Billy's the guy that got picked on both in the run game and in the pass game multiple times in this game. And so as far as I'm concerned, a couple other things. Did you see RSJ at the second level? Animal. Freaking animal. RSJ playing as a safety, playing essentially how Roy played at OU. His instincts are probably some of the best I've seen. Honestly, he's got some of the best safety instincts I've seen in the last 15 years. So he's good. Up there. Tony Jefferson. I can't think of a lot of guys that just when they're at the high safety and they're reading the play coming forward, RSJ, I think he's an NFL guy. I really do. He's got to.
100%.
He's
100%.
gonna have to. He's gonna have to improve playing, going backwards. But he's really good in space. He's really good in the alley. He's really good robbing. He's really good blitzing. I mean, like, I'm talking about like good, like really good. It's not like average. It's a special talent. Peyton, I feel like, is in a position. I don't know where he made. By the way, he made some really good plays, and we played a three high look. Sometimes we had a safety on each hash and a safety in the middle, and we are really creating angles to rally to their screens, rally to their single route stuff, and then keep safeties close enough where if they beat us in the box, we had a third level that could contain the run. I thought, by the way, BV scheme was phenomenal. Like, I can't even
Yeah,
stunt.
it was so
We should
good.
have. We showed a ton of pre-snap pressure, which I thought, I remember that was something I said that's very important. We got to confuse Nico. We played bump. I think we should have played bump more, but we played some bump pre-snap. Obviously, we played that off matchup zone, kind of a cover 3, cover 1 matchup zone a ton. But we essentially took away the middle of the field. Those safeties and cheetahs layering behind those backers gave us a lot of flexibility, and it took away a lot of the stuff they wanted to do. So defense, man, if you made me make a decision, Gorilla Nuts it's the entire defense, from
Agreed.
the 0
Yeah.
and 3 techniques to those backers. I mean, they had to bring it the entire second half. People were like, "Oh, Tennessee took the air out of the ball." No, Tennessee was up by 2 possessions, and they're trying to squeeze the game so that they can eliminate possessions by us. By the way, that's what any good offensive coordinator would do. Josh wasn't giving us chances. He wasn't like paying us a homage. No, he was trying. You saw him doing the math. People were like, why did he take the field goal? He took the field goal because there was no way for him to lose the game if they make the kick. If they
Yeah.
don't get, if they don't get that fourth down where Nico slips like 1 yard before the deal, and for some reason Hawkins, who has turned the momentum of the game at least some, makes another play, they're one possession from losing. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, Hype did us a favor." No, he did not. Hype was actually playing like a seasoned veteran coach, making sure his team was in a position where they couldn't lose. Worst case scenario, if all the stars aligned, 2 touchdowns plus 2 2-point conversions meant we could only tie, and his team wouldn't be in a situation where there was a last minute Sooner Magic scenario where they lost because the backup quarterback came in and did well. So overall, Des Malone was solid again.
Yeah. He's
Hey,
good.
again, Eli Bowen showed. I mean, and you heard BB even talk about him in his presser. RSJ, Dobie, man, sucks to lose Dobie. Kid was out there balling. I know he's a
Huge.
favorite of yours, but he's a flexible guy that we lost. Samuel again came in and by the way brought some disruption. Really proud of our defense, Barry, and I hope you need to see it. You need to see it more than once. You know what I'm saying? I want to
Yeah.
see them make that their calling card, where whether we're the away team or the home team, teams know you got to earn it, and definitely two steps in the right direction. And a lot of guys that I feel like their confidence grew. I think a lot of guys on defense said, "Hey, dude, we can go kick some tail and be a mother effort in the SEC."
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I think Des Malone and Kanai had some plays there. That one when Tennessee's going from right to left, man, and it's that little that they're trying to get Kanai one on one, kind of just beyond the pylon on that right
Oh
side of
yeah.
the goal line,
Mhm.
and he just makes it is a phenomenal play. You see that play in the NFL all the time, right? Where you'll isolate the corner, you try and get him one on one, and then you just throw it to the back shoulder, or you try and get it just over him. Basically, it's an incompletion, or a lot of times you'll get a PI, and then you're at the 1 yard line. So that's kind of what. And Kanai played it absolutely perfectly. Um, and the defensive line, to me, the fact that BV has flipped that position group, and Bates and Chavis, give them credit too, that they have flipped that position group so quickly is really a testament. Let's move over to the offensive side of the ball. We knew that that's where the game was going to kind of be won or lost, right?
Yeah.
I think special teams played okay. Maybe you want another punt or two, not going out of the end zone, but it was okay. Offensively though, man, it was not good. I am going to let's just start with the elephant in the room. We'll talk about Jackson and Hawkins. I personally think, and this is just now having watched enough film, I think Jackson, from a talent, physical perspective, has the juice. He has the arm talent. He does have the feet. The issue is his processing speed is just not as quick. It is not as precise. He does not deliver things as quickly as need be. And I go back a play that maybe things were, kind of a little bit hidden in that, and maybe we should have looked more into this play. But the play where he kind of jogs out of bounds against Houston, that is a play where you would hope that your quarterback could see the field, right, and could see the space there, but he didn't see it. He didn't process it. He the play that ultimately, and BV talked about this in the presser, that ultimately took him out of the game. He had other mistakes, but the play that did it was the lateral that was an RPO that should have been a run, right? And you can see, and BV talked about it from pre-snap alignment. You go up there, they know they're running the football. And in fact, he said that is a run, quote to quote BV, all day. And not only does Jackson not run the ball, he throws it sideways, lateral. Tennessee recovers, and you just can't have that happen. The shift to Hawkins is twofold to me. One, I think from a processing perspective, I think he sees things faster than Jackson does. That clock and the reaction speed is just a snip quicker, and that makes all the difference in the world against a really good defense. And I love being able to see it against live bullets. Jackson was the senior piece coming back, but I think sometimes, and I want to hear what you have to say about kind of fall camp and whatnot, but sometimes you can fall to victim to he sees he sees all of the same things in spring, in summer, in fall. Sometimes it's easier to look solid or look really good when you're seeing the same things every day. It's easy to get used to that, know how to leverage it, know how to beat it, and but it's a different deal when you're playing against brand new colors and live bullets are flying. The pressure is on. Some guys, DMAC, just don't have the juice to get that done. And I think Hawkins comes in and not only gives you a guy who can now escape if the pressure is coming. He very much reminds me of Caleb Williams and how quick that trigger goes off as soon as there's pressure coming. If he has guys rushing up the outside, his trigger is so quick, and he's got kind of that easy speed, right, where it's just real. It's not hard for him to get that corner, and Jackson struggles with that. Jackson is a guy who has to know how to step up. He can beat you with his legs, but it's not the same. Hawkins gets around that corner because that acceleration is so good. And then the other thing was I thought Hawkins just had some more mojo, man. I know we're getting a little psychological with it, but you see him play, there's more energy. There was more pep in the entire team. It completely changed the dynamic. And the hope, obviously, for Sooner fans is that this leads to something more. But what I want to ask you about is not only your thoughts on the shift happening and OU needing to make that decision, but also to kind of allude to your post. And if you aren't following DMAC on Twitter, D_Mac13, um, things that had not been working early on in the game and early on in the year started to look like they were coming together a little bit. Some of the concepts that Seth wanted to get to. So touch on that. Touch on not only Jackson's play, but the shift, and then how Hawkins coming in kind of causes all that stuff to work better as an offense, and they look a little more in sync.
I'm going to table the offensive part. I want to talk about Jackson and Hawkins first. All right, and everyone knows, and I'll be the first to eat crow because I am staunchly on the other side of the road now. I was a huge JFA fan. I was a big critic of Dylan Gabriel, and I think my biggest issue with Dylan was the fact that at OU we have the best of the best, especially at the triggerman position, probably the best in the last 25 years, starting with Hype and then all the way through Hurts and CW. We've just had just extreme, immensely talented quarterbacks, and Dylan was on a team that his ceiling would not get us to the championship. And by the way, Oregon's going to find that out this year. I mean, and I don't like to name. I mean, I don't want to name drop, but like their receiver coach and offensive coordinator or pass coordinator literally played Pee Wee football with me through adulthood. Like we are like me, he, Roy. We all played Pee Wee football together, and he went on to be a D1 athlete, and then he went on to become a coach. In fact, he played against OU. I don't know, 15 years ago when he first broke into coaching. His name's Junior Adams. He's receiver coach at Oregon. He stole a couple receivers from us, damn it. Those kids went to play with him. And so we have conversations. And I'm here to tell you there is not a full level of satisfaction with Dylan there. And you know, part of that is we understand he's on a stacked team. He has the ability to get what's there. But you play against some of those more difficult games, we'll see how he handles that. Anyway, don't want to belabor him. I wanted Jackson because Jackson was, to me, a higher ceiling where if he had the opportunity to be the guy, then, you know, I talked about it. I said, man, I want to see if he has that Baker in him. And then we talked about it the first couple of games where I said, man, Baker would have addressed it like this, or right, one of those other alphas. This is how they would have handled it. And that play, right, that play became a big play. People never even thought about the play until we discussed it. Go watch the play again. He could have stepped his foot in the ground and probably scored. And then you do the film study on it. And I like that you brought that back to attention. But Barry, here's the thing. He got outplayed in ball. When they were in scrimmages, all of them, he got outplayed. Hawkins was a guy who on defense, like they couldn't contain him, right? Jackson was a guy where on defense, he was a good runner. If he had a crease, he'll take it. But he couldn't just out-athlete our D-ends. He couldn't just out-athlete Kip or out-athlete Samuel, right? Those guys, if they had the proper angle, they could tackle him or touch him, tag him, whatever. Hawkins was a different animal, all right? And just conversations and some of the things that I get to hear, I am privy to, I'm telling you, people who watch these guys every day say Hawkins played better. You alluded to something, though. Jackson's been in the system. A lot of playing time is centered around who's a leader over the course of summer. Of course, Jackson was the leader. Who's running chalk talk? Of course, Jackson's running chalk talk, right? So all these intangible ingredients. By the way, Josh did it. You know, in 2001, Nate probably had that lead over J-Dub, right? Nate was there with Hype 99 or 2000 and saw Hype and emulated Hype, whereas Jason was coming off an injury and was kind of the pup, so he didn't have that authority. So when you size it up, again, we have to understand the context in this part. You can't be the head coach and you've got the guy who's running 7-on-7, like he has the script. The guy who's running with all the ones, and like you say, they're running 2, 3, 1, whatever, right? Robber, whatever. They're doing a fire and a safety blitz or whatever. And like you said, he's repped this so many times. He knows where to go with the ball in these scenarios because these are semi-rehearsed scenarios. You can't just say because during team twice a week for 30 minutes, the pup is doing things he can't. And by the way, throws too. There were times where the puppy ascended in his throwing. At the beginning of camp, he was like, he's a runner. By the end of camp, they're like, he can run and throw. But I don't even think it's politics. I do think it's culture. You can't just turn over the apple cart and be like, yeah, because this kid twice a week for 30 minutes, has this little extra spunk, we're going to just bench the guy who's been doing our 7-ons, who's been doing our chalk talks, who's a team captain, who's coming back who's the guy we gave the nil package to, the guy who we told Dylan Gabriel go see greener pastures. They didn't do that because of Hawkins. They did that because of Dylan. There's got to be some level of, I don't know if it's loyalty is the right word, but there has to be some level of capacity, right? Where like we got to have a capacity of saying this guy's also young. He has a high ceiling, right? And then there's all these ancillaries, right? Like, didn't he win MVP of the Elite 11? 5-star recruit. Yes. Isn't he from Denton Geyer? The fans they talk all this stuff like, oh, we need to keep inroads at Duncanville. We need to get some kids from Duncan. Like, you don't just take a kid from Denton who has brought us a ton of players over the course of the last half decade and be like, we're going to sit him because he had a bad game. And again, I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just saying I get it. Like, I get it, right? You and I have done the best we could to sugarcoat, and maybe that's not the right word, but like we spoke to like this didn't look too good, right? That didn't look too great, but these things have looked well. So I think as it relates to Jackson, it's really important to unpack the fact that it was not an easy decision to just bench him Saturday based upon all of the things that have culminated the last, I don't know, when we play our bowl game in January. So is that 9 months?
Yeah.
You don't just throw away. You don't just throw that away because of a preseason where you found a way to win every game. And in some of those games, he was a catalyst. However, Jackson did some nuclearly terrible things on Saturday. You know me. We've done this going on 3 seasons. I don't say this very often. He's the number 1, number 2, and number 3 reason why we lost that game. No one on the team was responsible. No one on the team was responsible for a turnover besides him. All 3 of his turnovers were on first down. 2 of his 3 turnovers were one play after the defense made it. By the way, one play after the defense took the ball away from Tennessee. This wasn't some like Tennessee had some fumble rooski. They took the ball. BB schemes up a phenomenal blitz. I think it's RSJ and Trace Ford coming off the backside of the quarterback. It's a strip sack fumble. Downs falls on the ball. Grayson Halton and those guys break through. I mean, like, these guys are balling, right? And I'm watching the game, Barry, and Twitter didn't understand me when I said this, but I'm watching the game, and it's about the 4th or 5th possession. I don't think Jackson had his 3rd turnover, but I think Jackson's 2 turnovers in, and people are starting to see. Go watch it. You see Kip go up to Jackson, and you can see him in his ear. Like, you can see him. It's by the way, it's authentic. It's honest. I don't know what he's saying, but you can see him like, he's trying to coach up his cue. And it just brought me back to games we had. That's what was happening on the sidelines in our games, right? There are games where the offense had to do it for the defense. There are games where the defense, like I told you, we're playing A&M. T. Marshall walks over to us. God damn it, D. Mack, what's up? We're going to make a play. When we make a play, y'all going to we got you. Boom, we score the touchdown. They get the ball back. Boom, T. Marshall gets the pick 6. We take the lead, right? You can see Kip, right? And then boom, Jackson gets the 3rd turnover. And then you see Hawk go in. And then you see Hawk has success.
Yeah.
Do you know what happens after that? Kip is in Hawkins' ear. I don't think people understand the magnitude of that. The team was saying that. Listen, 1 quarter prior, Jackson's our guy. We got to get our guy ready. We got to make sure he's mentally there because everybody can see, right? He's having a terrible game. 1 quarter later, it's Hawkins. It's almost like it's deja vu. And a couple of people caught it. I posted it on Twitter, and some people didn't get it. They're like, Mackie, what are you talking about? I said, they don't get it. A couple of people caught it. It's the camera pans to the sideline, and we're getting ready to get the possession back because we made them punt a ton of times. And it's the same player, Kip, doing the same thing, but it's Hawkins. And it's symbolic, right? The defense is saying, hey, dude, you're who we believe in now. You're the head guy now. You're seeing the same bullets fly that Jackson saw flying, but you're not putting us in terrible situations 1 play after we show up. I said it yesterday. People were like, listen, you can't tell 21 guys we're expecting to go out there and win a game, and 1 guy is failing to do his job, and then look the other 21 in their eyes and say we did everything we could to win. If that guy continues to be run out of the field, you can't do it in football. I've been there before, and seeing that happen, it hurt my heart. So I want to speak to that because I think that's really important. I think it's a rite of passage. I think Dylan. I don't think Jackson ever plays a meaningful down at OU again unless there's an injury. I honestly believe that. I think. By the way, this is Mackie. I'm just putting my opinion out here, and I don't have any inside knowledge. Yes, I text Seth last night and he responded to me. Yes, I text Josh last night and he responded to me. We had some good conversations. Those conversations are not for this podcast. But I will say this. Seth is smart enough to know he needs to keep his damn job. He wants this job. He wants to prove to Sooner Nation that he can do the job. And I don't know. He didn't tell me this, but I don't think he can trust Jackson to deliver what he wants the offense to do. And maybe that's scapegoating. I don't know. Maybe it won't ever work. It won't work anyway because of the offensive line. I don't know. But here's what I know. The same team with the same players scored 2 touchdowns in 4 possessions in the fourth quarter. The only change in variable is the quarterback. Tennessee did not change anything on defense. If people want to say on offense, they ran the ball. They didn't. They blitzed on defense. They brought the house on defense. They disguised coverage on defense. They had their number ones in on defense. They bowled up at the goal line because they did not want us to score. Like there's no excuse. There's no good excuse to say, they no, they did not. No, they did not. They had not given up a touchdown. Everyone knew it. They knew it. We knew it. The broadcasters knew it. They didn't want us to score. We scored because our quarterback was willing to do a helicopter, which was, by the way, a touchdown, to score a TD. That's important. By the way, Tennessee saw that. Guess who else saw that? Our sidelines.
Yeah.
Holy shit, right? You brought up the scenario. Jackson has the opportunity to stick his foot in the ground and score a touchdown. He hot dogs it out of bounds. Hawkins has an opportunity. He really just gives up his body because he wants to score for his team. The team sees that. And I want to make a parallel, and then we'll talk more about the specifics or the positions. With all due respect to everybody and their opinions, by the way, I'm just a fan, guys. I'm just a fan, and yes, I know a thing or 3 about football. Yes, I know a thing or 3 about schemes, and I know a lot about our schemes because I've studied them, played in them, so on and so forth. But my opinion doesn't weigh more than anyone else's. But I do know this: 2000, we win the national championship with Josh Heupel. 2001, we bring back a lot of the same guys that won the national championship, except Hype left. 2001, we go in the fall camp, and like I said, Nate's kind of entrenched. J-Dub is coming off an injury and is the younger guy, and everybody. By the way, Barry, to a man, you ask any receiver coming out of fall camp, and I think I spoke to this on the pod before, but I want to make sure I bring it to light today. Who do you think should be the starting quarterback? All of us say J-Dub.
Yeah.
Week 1, we play against North Carolina. We play North Carolina. They've got gosh, what's the guy, the freak who
Julius
was
Peppers.
J Pep. He picked 6 my damn. By the way, I'm probably out the gate if he doesn't pick 6 that. But J Pep pick success. We get like 100 and I think we have less than 300 total yards that game. Defense dominates. Royaley's killing it. D Straight, those guys, they're killing it. We're opportunistic. I think Nate makes a play or 2 as needed, and we win something like 12-16 or something. A little to a little. It was not the OU that we were accustomed to. All right. Texas game, Nate gets hurt. That's the game we win 14-3. Most of that is because the first 2.5 quarters of the game, the offense is out of sync. J-Dub comes into the game. All of a sudden, the offense is in sync. J-Dub takes the job until we play Nebraska. From Texas to Nebraska, we're balling. Nebraska, Nate comes back in. Same players, same scheme, same offensive coordinator, same head coach. Jason's in the game. We're probably championship good. Nate comes in the game. We're a 10-2 team. What's my point? Everyone's saying, and we're going to get to the O-line, and we're going to get to the RBs, and we're going to get to all the other positions. But guys, if you got eyeballs, you cannot discount. We looked different when Hawkins was in the game. Period. You can't say he was running for his life. That's not true. He did run for his life in some plays. He had clean-ass pockets in other plays, and he threw strikes.
Yeah.
He threw strikes. And so, I think that gives us hope. I have my head in my hands for about 2.5 quarters. Every time I thought we had something cooking, we turned the ball back over or whatever. That last, I'd say 20 minutes of the game. To me, we lose Dolby, which hurts. Dolby hurts. I don't want to minimize that. But to me, that L is worth it if we find our quarterback of the future.
Man, I think that's a fantastic point. It took and I know people are going to talk about Hawkins, quote unquote, running for his life, but man, so many of you go back to Baker, you go back to Kyler, you go back, nothing is ever blocked up perfectly, and every play, and you have to have a quarterback who can escape out where the what. So there was one play where I think he just runs and gets a first down. I want to say it is like a second or third and 6, and it is a negative without him. At the very least, it is a no gain or sack. And because he's able to squirt out and get to the sideline, it's easy speed. He's able to get the corner without any problem. But once you get guys out on the edge, Baker was lethal out there. When O line would break down, Baker would roll whatever direction he needed to go and was lethal. The play that Hawkins had where Bauer Sharp should have caught the damn football, that was a that was the stuff that just he's got to be better. But Hawkins gives OU a different level of a different dimension in the run game. The throw he had, I want to say the throw is to Petaway, where it is between, I want to say it's between the corner who's playing and the safety over it's the receivers coming from the top to the bottom of the screen was a phenomenal throw. It's just as good as any throw we've seen Jackson make all year. You got to see a guy. It is funny how a player like Petaway been totally quiet all season. Yes, you do have Burks go down, but Petaway hadn't been able to catch a pass. And then all of a sudden he comes into the game and he's a player. He's breaking off runs. Petaway looked pretty good, and I think if Hawkins gets a chance with the ones, which seems like he's going to, I think Auburn is a great game to set things up, and I think it's a really good game for the O line because I think now the O line goes into this game, and maybe this is getting a little too psychological, but I'm trying to lead you into something. The O line goes in now saying, you know what, we don't have to be perfect, but let's play hard, let's play physical. Let's
That's fair.
we right now with Jackson in the game, they have to be A plus plus, or the run game doesn't work. The both the QB run game and the RB run game does not work on pass plays. You've got to be perfect, or else it's a sack. Man, you got a guy in there that now just go hit someone. Get the guy in who's going to be nasty on the ground, who's going to push somebody back. And when it comes to pass blocking, OU's probably going to be a little bit better, right? That there's probably going to be a lot fewer negative plays, and you keep drives alive by Hawkins using his feet. So really curious to hear your thoughts on how OU now moves forward with the O line, and we'll also kind of move that into the running backs. It does stink that Taylor Tatum on the concussion, probably going to be 2 weeks. I think getting him back by Texas is best case scenario. I don't think he's back by Texas though. We will see though, right? That they're going into concussion protocol. They're already now 24 hours into it. That we'll see how things progress. Maybe he is back by Texas. It's a possibility. I just don't see it. But how does the O line now, DMAC, go from you've had to block for Jackson, you've been in the play calling for Jackson, to now shift into a Hawkins where the run game and the threat of QB run is just a totally different animal. Some of the read option, especially if Hawkins knows how to really read it, which we've seen Jackson fail on multiple times. He just made the wrong read, and even BV has alluded to it. So discuss now, where does the offense go in terms of offensive line and running back?
Our center and right tackle, if you want to go watch a clinic, on how to get man handled, Hickman, is that his name?
Yeah, he did
If
not.
he's
He
the
did not
better,
play well.
if he's the better of the, I mean, listen, he's playing against, they talked about it a lot. They've got 8, 9, 10, 11 guys they roll in there, and you could see those guys were fresh and they were coming.
Yeah,
But he got knocked on his ass a lot,
a
like
lot.
too much. And first game back, I think he left the game healthy, which is good for us. Everett, I think, is really close. Maybe by Texas, I think we have Everett back. I don't know if he played yesterday. But from just an offensive line standpoint, this is why I don't like to beat a dead horse. Okay, we beat Temple. The one position group in Temple that was terrible is the O-line. Fair. We barely beat Houston. The best position group on offense is the O-line. They get all the blame. And in that deal, I say, hey, go watch the film. They're hat on hat. So a lot of what our issues were, if we had revisionist theory and could put Hawkins in some of those scenarios, how does he fare against an inferior defense versus Jackson? Because now we see Jackson can create his own issues. Like Jackson created his own issues all day yesterday, right? And I always said, Barry, the offensive line is about a unit, cohesion. And then I said, every single play, it's 1v1. And I said, I'm concerned about the 1v1 scenario. Saturday, that played itself out, right? And Temple, the group was just messing up and guys were running free. That's not what happened Saturday. On Saturday, their guys punked 2 or 3 of our position guys. And I think they're the best guys we have. So it isn't like you just rotate. It's not like it's a mental bus where you can put another guy in there and you know what I'm saying? He can do the assignment. It was a mental bus. I mean, Hickman, it was getting, oh man, he got set on his ass 4 or 5 times minimum. Tarkin, is that 70?
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, when they brought 2 off the edge, there were times he got nobody. Because like you could just see he didn't know what to do, and you've got
the difference, and
or pick one, stick your hand in his chest, or what. I don't know. I don't know what to tell him. But what I'm saying is, yesterday we experienced some of those 1v1 battles where we just aren't talented enough, and I think that's a fair critique of beating Bo because we don't have top shelf talent. Middle of the road, portal guys, transfer guys. I think that's a fair critique of him. But then again, it's relative. What does it look like with Jackson? What does it look like with Hawkins? Here's what I'm going to say. And by the way, I'll own this. I think Seth wants to run more Leach principles, quick game principles, roll. Remember I said it, boots, rollouts, not the true RPOs. Go watch the game. Second quarter. No, it's first quarter. It must be the end of the first quarter. Jackson's in. It's a 3rd down, or I think it's 3rd and 4 or something like that. We're trying to pick up a 3rd, and we run an RPO principle, and we have Roberts come across the formation. And what we're running is, and by the way, if it's a true RPO, Jackson read it wrong. But what we're running is we're running inside zone to the strong side of the formation. Roberts is coming across to the weak side. And what Roberts is supposed to do is look like he's going to block the guy, miss the guy, and go into the flat. And Jackson should, if the guy is there, pull it and run boot. It's an RPO. It's RPO action. Well, Jackson gives it to Barnes. And the guy that Roberts runs right across just tackles Barnes in the backfield, right? And my point is that's veer shoot stuff. Now go watch when Hawkins is in the game. We run some veer shoot stuff. It's equally terrible because there's no clear defined role for what to do. But watch when Hawkins is in the game, when we're running clear defined boot, when we're running clear defined drop back, when we're running clear defined, you with me, quick game. The pocket is semi clean. And we're talking about Tennessee, who's pinning their earbacks, a number 2 quarterback. They're trying to put pressure on him the same way we're trying to put pressure on Nico. Hawkins is throwing strikes. He's throwing strikes. So I take that information. I got to go back. I'm going to go back and count and say how many of Hawkins' throws were RPO action versus true, a defined boot, defined rollout, defined, like everybody in the huddle knows, hey, we're running ace open, 36 boot, 30. Everybody knows boot. I have this man. RPO, it's like if, right? And it seems to me when there's a lot of ifs is when a lot of people go free, like the Roberts play.
Yeah.
If if Jackson pulls it, it should be 2v1 on the edge, Roberts and Jackson, but Jackson gives it. And then the guy who Roberts doesn't even block comes and makes the play. When Hawkins comes in the game and we're not doing RPO, it looks better. Yeah, there were some times where we still got our ass kicked. Harkin got his ass kicked on coming off the edge one time, and Hawkins runs right into it. Yeah, that's gonna happen. But man, there's 3 or 4 clean pockets. Man, there's 2 or 3 boot actions where we're okay. There's also, we don't call quarterback draw, but I know coach said, hey, if the first read ain't open, run. We're running real pass routes, so the defense has to respect it, and then those natural alleys come. And like you said, that's where Hawkins able to get those 5-6 yards that probably Jackson isn't able to get. So when I look at our O line, guys, I don't want to every week. I don't want to talk about how much they suck. We're not getting 7 dudes between now and recruiting and portal season. Like, we got the guys we have. We'll know if our coaches are worth a damn how well they adjust, how well they pivot. So I said it pregame. I would love to see us run a ton of quick game and pumps. I would love to see us run a ton of boot, which he did. He showed some boot action and some sprint outs, right? Those are the things that I think the offense can do and at least play winning football. And so I look at those things and I say, offensive line, dude, they're a C plus best. Their ceiling is a C plus, right? We're going to play teams who have A minus and B minus, B plus D lines. Like, they're going to be the worser of the two. That's why you play the game. That's why you have a scheme. That's why you create an offense to the strengths of your QB. No one can ever get me to change my opinion on when I was told the offense we are running is the offense that Jackson is the most comfortable running. Because I'm like, bro, I know that ain't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know our stuff, and I know you know our stuff, and I know Wilson's stuff. I know Wilson's stuff well because I was tight with hype. I'm like, what? You're running Levy stuff. Well, Levy stuff was Jackson stuff. And so Jackson's on the bench. It'll be interesting to see these next 2 or 3 weeks what our offense looks like.
Yeah, I think the game to me solidified, once again that Barnes and Sawchuk just are not going to be able to be the running backs that OU needs for them to be. Maybe with Hawkins, some of that changes. Maybe conceptually they shift a few things that they got to get Tatum back. Tatum again looked like the best back in the backfield, and you even saw Franklin get some run as well. That was really good to see. D-Mac, even though it was a loss, gotta go gorilla nuts, player of the game. We got to pass out some awards, right? I think offensively, almost feel like we got to go at the same time because I'm sure we know who it is, right? Gorilla nuts, player of the game on offense goes to
Hawkins, without
Hawkins.
question.
Yeah,
Without
no
question.
question.
The kid willed life back into hope for our season. Like, by the way, if Hawkins doesn't do that, we're probably going to win 5 games max. If we have Jackson, I mean, I don't know what Casey can do. I don't want to just hate on Thompson's kid, but like, Jackson proved to us he ain't it. Like you said, our running backs versus their running backs. Oh my God. And then their
Yeah.
receivers look like what our should look like if they were healthy.
God, Brew McCoy, I forgot how large he was.
Big
Man,
man.
he is a man playing receiver out there. He reminded me of what's his face that played for the Titans. Just looks like a massive. The receiver went to the Eagles.
AJ Brown.
Oh yeah,
AJ
yeah, AJ
Brown.
Brown. Just the way he plays the position is just big. It's physical. It's just hard to handle. He's just so much body out there. I will say, and this is a shout out, man. I feel like every week we give this guy credit, and there were multiple times he's the only guy who I've seen raise a little hell on the offensive line, and that's 54.
Yep.
54 was he was in Hickman's ear after, so I think Hickman had 2 bad snaps, and on both of those, 54 was like, "What the hell you doing, man? You got to get it together." Fabechi Nwewu, he's been OU's best offensive lineman all season. He has absolutely outperformed. He's not going to win any awards, but from a consistency standpoint, from a moving your guy and being where you need to be, he's been OU's best. And it only him showing that leadership piece probably is out of a little bit of frustration, right? But when you do your job every time and you feel like you're still failing as a group, that would suck. It's not to say he's perfect. Defensively, and then we're going to do a little Q&A before we get out of here. I see that we're going to do a little Q&A. Defensively, DMAC, I'm going to go. I know you said whole defense, but I'm curious. I'm gonna go Trace Ford. I thought this was one of his best games as a Sooner. The strip sack was freaking big time. Even Herb Street called it out. He could have just tried to blast the quarterback, but didn't. He did it like a high IQ football player, knowing that you need a turnover and you've got to change the tide. You mentioned it earlier. The OU took the ball away from Tennessee. They it was very reminiscent of some of those early Stoops defenses where you need a turnover. It's not just accidentally flutters in your hands. It's not some, running back drops the ball and some no. They specifically took the ball away and made plays happen and gave it back to the offense. The offense just could not convert. Who's your Gorilla Nuts player of the game on defense?
If you're gonna take Ford, which by the way I think is a great take, I'm gonna take RSJ all over the field. By the way, Dolby would have been in there, but guys,
Yeah.
RSJ. It's so hard to tackle in space, and really the only way you get good at it is if you have good angles, because you don't give them good angles to juke you, right? To make you miss, and just to see the number of times he comes up with tackles and or is really close in coverage on the second level. Um, I thought that was big time. I also want to give it to the D linemen, 52, 95, and 56 and 65. Those four are as good as any four. Those four are as good as Tennessee's four. If we had, I'm talking about the tackle positions. If we
Yep.
had who they had coming off the edges, I mean, they were as disruptive. They were disruptive as hell yesterday. They were ass kicking anyway. But those four, RSJ, um, Des Malone had a solid game. He had to play that got called back. Thank God. Um,
Yeah.
the young pup, Eli Bowen. You know what I'm saying? I'm excited to see what the kids got. The backers were really good, but had some solid misses, and they started cooking because our backers weren't cleaning their fits. Um, RSJ had one play where I saw he missed pretty bad, but he had a lot of plays in space. I think Trace Ford's a really good pick, just because first because I totally forgot his name last week, and you said his name, and I was like, oh, that's not it. So let's give him kudos for that. But
Shout
also
out.
because he wasn't just that play. He was a menace all game. By the way, RMT got another sack, fair and square, kicked the
Yeah.
tackle's ass and got a sack. So seeing that D line, that's a big deal.
Well, and we said, I know I said for OU to win the game, they would need another edge player to step up if RMT
You
is going
did.
to get the bulk of the pressure there. I want to talk. I saw OU Dude 87 mentioned the three man front being legit, right? You were a big fan of the 30 in BB's first year. You saw a lot of good from it. Talk a little bit from a football standpoint, just with your experience, DMAC. What why it did not work then, and doing a lot for the fans. I think the savvy fan understands this, but maybe for the folks who don't understand quite the difference, like, hey, why have four, 3D linemen if you could have four? Wouldn't that be better against the run? Talk a little bit about why it's being effective now and why OU can line up in the 30 and they still get pushed into the backfield. They're still able to handle the run. It's not like the 30 when Ola, what's his face, was here, and it's not like the 30 of 2022. Discuss that a little bit for the fans.
Yeah, I think personnel wise, number one, we have flexibility. We have guys like Halton that can play at a 0 or a 3, or can play that 9, or head up at a 5 technique. And then we have guys like Ford, like Sammy O, like McCullough when he comes back. Obviously, you guys have seen Danny and those guys. Those guys can be the overhangs. When you're in a 30 front, you generally call the outside backers an overhang. They're good enough to bring pressure. They are smart enough to play in area space. but they also are athletic enough to get underneath routes, right? And so 2 years ago, we didn't have that personnel. When we've got, I mean, guys, we had David Yu playing middle backer. Think we had and by the way, he transferred out and he immediately was moved back to defensive end, and he was second team. He was our starting middle backer. Think about the lack of athleticism and change of direction we had versus now we've probably got 5 guys. I mean, I could name Kip, Lewis Carter, Samuel, Trace Ford, McCullough. That's not even including Danny, who we want to keep Danny on the second. Like, think of the number of guys we have. Dobie, if we want to go small, who can really be flexible. And so what the 30 does is it allows us to dominate the B gap. All right. We have a guy who can just cross face into it. And there's a term you use called spill, and you spill it into the overhang. If you guys see the safeties, we had a safety who would generally stay deep, but we had 2 safeties who were about 8. And as soon as they saw a run, they didn't have pass responsibilities. Well, they would have to look in to alley. Look in means as they're coming, they have to look for an in cut, and they'd have to rob that. But if there's no in cut, they go straight to the alley. There's a deep safety behind everything. But when you've got those overhangs, you want to spill it. You want to bounce it. All right. So that 5 technique is breaking down to that guard center gap. That overhang is containing it, and everybody else is filling the gap. It's a really good way to take some of the concepts Hype wanted to do and make them bounce or make them just become a mud pile. And so that 30 front, oh man, it was money. And I loved it because sometimes it was a true 30. Sometimes it was a 30 or forward up as in a 2-point, like I've been saying. But I was like, I want to see it. He did it. He totally did. I was so excited to see it, and it worked. So it was really cool to see.
Well, wonderful stuff. And the guys start flooding in a few questions. We'll do a few questions before we get out of here. Working on getting gonna have another Sooner here on the podcast this week. Working on getting a guy who played kind of middle of this past decade at the safety position. If you guys got any guesses, an alum of where I went to high school. So if you guys got any guesses on that, please drop those in the comments. Get the questions rolling. Did have a question, a little tongue in cheek from KJ Goated. What's the biggest hole liability in OU's defense, and why is it Woody? I want to touch on that just for a second. I mean, Woody is a really good football player. Against the run, he's really solid. He's just playing out of position, in my opinion. I don't think he has the hips, the feet, the ability to break on the ball like an elite cornerback in the college game, especially in the SEC. It was so obvious to me, D-Mac, on certain plays where what they wanted to do, they were able to do because they knew that their receiver could win anytime when he was out there. That there was really not a question in their mind if you get Woody to flip his hips either one way or the other one time, he's done. He does not have the ability to flip back. He doesn't have the quick break on the ball ability. He is best when things are right in front of him and he makes a decision and commits. If he has to be agile in space, it's just not near as successful. Talk about that a little bit, and then maybe maybe a little bit about Eli Bowen and what you see in him from an individual perspective too, because I saw that pop up here on the comments.
So I'm gonna say this. I want to do some tongue in cheek, and I'm a Sooner, and I'm gonna tell the truth. I don't think he's the weakest link because he doesn't play enough. I think the weakest link is Billy Bowman, because he plays so much, and he has consistently been out of position. He has consistently provided too much air. He has consistently missed tackles in space. Did you see to seal the game 1v1 in the B gap? He and the quarterback, they run zone read. Do you see that? Did you see
Oh
that?
yeah,
End of the
yeah.
end of the game.
I don't think I
Quarterback
processed
shows the
that was.
ball.
Yeah,
Oh, quarterback
yeah.
shows the ball, pulls the ball. Their guard pulls around, kicks out whoever our end is. It's him and Billy Bowman in the hole 1v1. He doesn't touch him. He doesn't touch him. Doesn't touch him. That's our All-American safety. That should be a tackle, right? I wonder if that's RSJ, what happens. But anyway, as it relates to 5, we've just recruited better players. I don't want to beat up on the kid. Three years ago, he was a borderline starter because we had the kid that transferred to Miami and we had these other whatever guys. 3 years later, I don't remember the kid's name. 3 years later, he's just not as good a player as the guys we brought in. And so between the portal and recruiting some really good high school kids, he's the fourth or fifth, best corner now. And so that's why he doesn't play like he used to play, which is why I think Billy Bowman is the biggest issue right now on defense.
I saw something pop up. Somebody mentioned the freshman tight end, Devon Mitchell. I think they are just waiting to get his body right. I don't think physically he got into the program quite ready to go. He still had quite a bit of baby fat. I think they still wanted to enhance things a little bit. Obviously, you got to know the offense, and maybe that's been a factor too. And then, of course, you bring in a Bauer Sharp, you bring in a Jake Roberts, who are veteran guys from different programs. But if Tan can't catch the ball, maybe you got to try a little bit with a Devon Mitchell. I think that'll be that'll be interesting to see how that progresses on down the line. To touch on your Billy Bowman thing real quick, D-Mac, Kip Lewis makes a harder tackle on the quarterback on Nico in space with less help, right? And that just shows you the ability to tackle, the ability to get off a block. The play Kip makes out on the edge on the perimeter was one of the best defensive plays made all year. He's got to get off a block. It's one-on-one, and he does everything. He doesn't get fooled by the head and the shoulders, doesn't get fooled by the feet, eyes on hips, and takes care of business. Let's see here. This is a good question. Does the offense change to more true air raid now with Hawkins, D-Mac?
So I think it does, but not solely because of Hawkins, more so because of the line. Again, I got to go back. I'm gonna just pull data. I'm a numbers guy at heart. My degree is finance. My undergrad is finance. I bet you most of our bad plays are on RPO action. I'd be willing to bet you. By the way, the safeties RPO action. The laterals RPO action. Right? Like I'm just thinking back, like a lot of that stuff. So I think for the sake of just continuity on the team, that they're going to move to some different principles versus the RPO so much, just because of that. I also want to touch on something else. Our tight ends are horrible. Blocking. Franklin gets one carry. He's out the gate if Bauer Sharp just blocks his man. And when it happens, they're like, "Oh, the old line sucks." The old line blocks it perfect. It's a bend back. In fact, it's an inside zone. He bends it back all the way across the formation. He gets to the edge, and I don't know who the edge person is on offense and makes the block, and then it's just Bauer in the corner, or it's a safety, whoever's guarding Bauer. He literally doesn't block him, and then we punt, and you can see BV's talking to him on the sideline. Like he just doesn't block his guy. I think there's one or two of those every game. At tight end, we've got to get dramatically better because those guys are not game changers in the pass game. They've got to at least be fundamentally sound in the run game.
Yeah, somebody talked about wide receivers that block. The wide receiver blocking has been better than the tight end blocking, especially on some of the quick game stuff. So I don't necessarily know if I maybe it's not elite, but it's certainly been better. It's not anything that's stuck out. In fact, when the passes have been accurate on that perimeter stuff, OU's been pretty good, right? Burks has had a chance to take some things 6, 7, 8 yards, right? Those aren't plays that are going to bust for 20, 30. They're there to keep the defense honest, to stretch things, to space the field, to just to make them have to commit to something else. Let's see here. Well, let's do one more D-Mac. Let's see. Why is Bill talking to him and not Joe? Let's do this. Let's close with a little bit of prediction here when it comes to Hawkins, right? Or at least try to. Jackson, I think we saw that they were going to lose this game, and in fact they did. What realistically do you think OU has in Hawkins? To me, I think he's probably worth at least 2 more wins, if not 3 to 4. It's so tough to say because you haven't seen enough of a sample size with him yet. So that'll be interesting. Also had another person mention Hicks. So that'll be, Why hasn't he's seen the field? So, well, what's your prediction there? How does this Hawkins thing play out, D Mac? And do you think OU can get this thing to 8-9 wins with him playing?
So true serum. And this is how I want to. This is how I want us to really think about it. You're in a pretty bad situation if you're depending on an 18-year-old true freshman dual threat quarterback to navigate the SEC. There's too many opportunities for injury. There's too many opportunities for just something bad to happen because of youth and experience. And so I don't know. Hawkins is going to give the team a jolt. And where we are this season, I think it's necessary to get through these next 3 weeks. I think it gives us an opportunity to win both games, right? Both games in the bye. I don't know what the kid has. Somebody asked me yesterday, guys, I'm not Nostradamus. I don't have all the answers. I like to analyze the game from the lens of an offensive player, a defensive player, numbers, right? Experience. I do like to do that. He gives us a hell of a lot better chance than Jackson does. I think Jackson, I think our max was 5. We got 3 wins. I think we win Maine and a game where I think Missouri's a team we can beat. I think Missouri's a team we could beat. I think Auburn would be a game that we could potentially win. South Carolina, by the way, South Carolina they are not going to be an easy win.
They
good. Are not. They're physical. They are physical. So Hawkins gives us hope. For now, that's what I'm sticking with. Hawkins gives us hope. We got to see how the dominoes affect the offense in the line. Like you said, is it going to create faith with the linemen? Are new receivers going to emerge that people thought they can't get covered? No, the quarterback's not throwing the ball. The quarterback's like, you know what I'm saying? Like the offense does. I remember Nate Hibble versus Jason White. I just remember it. You're like, the ball should be coming. The guy is maybe a half yard behind you, but the ball should be right here. The ball never comes. And then people like, oh, no one's open. No, the ball needs to come out. And so it'll be cool to see how that impacts. I want him to stay healthy. I think he has the ability to be a star. I think, I saw that 117 too, Mitch. That was, they said it was the loudest. Did you see that? They said it was the loudest ever. 115 was the loudest at LSU last year. OU got to 117 or 115. Excuse me. 115 was the loudest at LSU. We got to 117 early in the first quarter. Hawkins is. I'm listen. I'm still sticking with 9 wins. Are you kidding me? You think I'm going to think we suck now because we got adversity? Adversity happens, and we could lose some games. Yeah, we got some warts. The offensive line is not great. Our safeties, we got to clean some stuff up and whatever. But so that doesn't mean we can't. Right? Yes, I still believe in Brent Venables. Yes, I believe Seth is going to show more people than not what he really can do when he's not thrown in. Guys, he's 5 games in. I don't give a damn if he was my quarterback or if he was North Texas A&T Handkerchief University, sister of the poor. Give the guy a chance to run his stinking offense. But by the way, the alternative isn't going to help. Joe John Finley's the alternative. There isn't another OC. It's not like last year when we had Levy and then we had Seth in the wings. There isn't like some guru in the wings that's going to help us win a game this season. So we're stuck with him this year. This is a prove it, put up or shut up year for him. 9 games, bro. To win, how many you got to lose to win 9, Barry?
You got to lose 3 games.
So we got 2 more. Okay, cool. So there it is, right? So we got 2 more games where we're going, not necessarily have success, but Missouri's for the taking. They've eked out 2 games they should have lost. They should have lost to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
All right. Obviously, we got Maine on the schedule. Obviously, we got Auburn on the schedule. Texas is a rivalry game. I don't give a damn if that. It would be even more sweet to beat them as the number 1 team in the country. By the way, that game is worth 2. If we win that game, it's worth 2 wins. We win that game, it's worth 2 wins. So, hey man, it's the first day of fall, bro. I'm about to, I'm about to enjoy this football season, and now that I feel like we got some hope, we'll see how things shake out.
Yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. Shout out to the fan who brought up the 117. OU bowling that thing in, best thing they could have completely changed the noise in that stadium when they bowled that sucker in. When we'll see what they have planned for the future. Like we've talked about, OU's got some hope at some different spots. You got some talent at different positions, And at the end of the day, you got to have a defense to build from if you want to win a championship. If you don't play with a good defense, you're not winning a championship. But we've seen it, right? You can get it done with good offense. You cannot get it done if your defense is absolute hot garbage. And OU's on its way. The build we found out in 22 was going to be a little bit longer than we thought. I also think it's important to remember, and Frank DeLuca, for you guys who listen to that show, referenced it, DMAC. Tennessee in 2022, right, was that they're a player two from being in the playoff and possibly playing for a national championship. And
They
he
were the number
said
one
that,
team in America. They were number one team in America for a week.
yeah, and he said the fans knew a lot of that team was very young. Heupel had built up. He's done a great job recruiting. He's done a great job putting elite guys on the defensive side of the ball. And and what you were able to get is just a team that needed a trigger man, and now they've got a trigger man. We could end up looking back at this game saying, you know what, OU was not, with Hawkins at the helm at least, OU was not that far off. OU was not that far down from Tennessee, that not only was not a winnable game, but that this team can't actually still do some really good things. So we'll find out about Tennessee. Houston seems to be better than we thought. That not as bad as the first game showed, and we knew that Tulane has some players. So offensively, OU's just got to be able to turn it up. We'll see how that goes. Before we get out of here, closing thoughts, DMAC.
I see some Kel Gundy love in here. I'd love for Kel to come back. That would be awesome. I'd be all in on that. I don't know about as a coordinator. I mean, I know he was co-coordinator for a couple of years. Yeah, guys,
Phenomenal
we're
running backs coach. Phenomenal. One of the
by the
best
way,
evaluators at that position that they've ever
the
had.
developers at the position. They just rolled. It didn't matter if you were a walk on, if you were a transfer. It didn't matter who you were. If you were the fourth team dude, I mean, Coach Gundy made sure we had guys who could take it to the house. Period. I'd love Coach to get back. I don't know about the whole politically correct stuff and the whole woke stuff and the whole. I mean, just hearing how that whole thing shook out. Being a black man, and by the way, who occasionally uses that language in certain scenarios. I hate that for him because I know how Coach is, and I know it stings. I know it stings for Coach. But anyway, my last thoughts, guys, is 1 week at a time. You're in this aspect of the season. It's 1 week at a time, right? I see somebody talking about Texas. Texas is not on the calendar this week. This week is Auburn. If we get a win here, we're 4-1. We're feeling good about ourselves. That means our quarterback has gotten us some new opportunities. We just gotta be head down grinding in the foxhole, not listening to a bunch of the riffraff happening on campus. We got to have each other's back. We got to stay healthy. And this week, I'm looking for us to go 1-0. And by the way, I think Auburn's not going to be a game we get a blowout. I don't. And we'll talk about predictions, obviously, next week. But I think it's a game we find a way to win. And if we stay healthy, we could be dangerous the second half of the season.
Awesome stuff. Well, Sooner Nation, I want to remind you guys to go over to OUinsider.com, grab yourself a membership over there. We're lighting up the threads. Fans want answers, and we're going to try to provide them to you guys. Love doing the live post-game pod. We'll also have this posted, simulcasted over there on OUinsider.com here in just a little bit and on the YouTube. So go check that out. Parker and Brandon do a phenomenal job. Great sideline content. If you are not following the YouTube, do so. But make sure you're following us over here. Hit the subscribe button. Trying to get to 1,000 subs. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BWiseFitness, at letter BWISE Fitness. Find DMAC at D_Mac13 on X, and at Dame That Dude on Instagram. Sooner Nation, thank you all for tuning in today. Even after a loss, all hope is not gone. We will see you soon.